With all of the women's sports in 2023, it feels as if we've had more than just a month of a women's sport, but the official Women's Month begins, and we bring you women who have chosen the road less travelled. And many a road at very high pace, our guest certainly has travelled. Paige Lindenberg is the current champion and leader in the National Legends Championship. It's a class for pre-1966 production cars. She was recently nominated as a Women in Motoring finalist and joins us now. A very good afternoon and welcome to Newzroom Afrika. Good to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
So your career in sport started when you were very young as a powerboater, but your career in sport is much more than what you do just in the sporting field.
Yeah, so I mean, I was born into it. My dad was racing from before I was born. He was a world champion in powerboating at the time that I started. So I started in powerboats. I got my first powerboat when I was 5 and started racing when I was 7, so very young.
And then we were at World Championships when we were 11 years old.
Yeah. So I won South African champs at 9 and then moved on to win world champs at 11 in powerboating.
And then the transition into cars?
So in 2002, my dad had his second very bad accident. It was in Saldanha Bay, the second one, and he was declared dead. And then he was in a coma for a week afterwards, and that's when he decided powerboating got too dangerous. At that point in powerboating, there was no assistance when your boat went over, so you drowned, and that's what happened to him for the second time. And he just felt it was too dangerous for me to carry on with powerboating. So when he retired, he made me stop with him, and then that's when I moved into cars. I was about 12 at that point.
And Mom was okay with her daughter taking part in such a risky sport at such a young age?
She says she was, but like rumor has it, still to this day, she puts her nails through your arm when you stand next to her. So, I mean, she married my dad knowing what he did, so I don't think she was completely against it, but I do think as a mother, especially a daughter and not a son, I think it can be very stressful, especially when you have your son and your husband and daughter racing, at the same time. So she's very supportive. But
so your father is a motoring and water sport icon in South Africa, won numerous titles in both of the different sports. Yeah. So one would say that your path was laid out for you and you didn't really have much choice, or did you?
No, we had a lot of choice. We 3 daughters. I'm the middle one, and I'm the only one who the bug bit.
Wow.
Yeah, my older sister, she got a powerboat to test at the same time as I did, and she just didn't really take to it. And the first time I got into it, I said to my dad, I'm ready to race. So, yeah, it's strange. I don't know why it bit me and not the others, but my older sister was very good at all sport, netball. She was a world champion dancer, and my younger sister was a really good swimmer. So we all had our own sort of, field in sport that we were good at.
And I suppose now, as a grown woman, you understand just the massive impact that having your dad so close to you in sport and always encouraging you, always being able to guide you in the sport, helps you understand just the importance of having that kind of figure and role model.
Yeah, absolutely. I owe everything to my parents, and I've actually gotten involved in a few projects and started a few of my own projects trying to help women teach them more about the basics of cars. So we've started a car basics course now at Tiger Wheel, just to teach women the basics of knowing an everyday car, because I've been lucky to grow up with a father who's taught me so much, but not everybody has that example, and not everybody has that idol or role model to follow in their footsteps. So, I'm really lucky. Everything about him has, I think, rubbed off on me when it comes to business and my drive to succeed and my passion. And, he's just never, ever given up on anything. And I think that's been instrumental in my life. And yeah, I try where I can to help others who haven't had that, but it definitely makes a huge difference, in where I am today. I don't think I would be where I am today if I never had that.
What is being a woman in motorsport really like? It's an incredibly masculine environment. You had a really great guide in your dad, and I suppose also that protective shield. But generally for the other women that you see in motorsport?
I think we're all in the same boat, to be honest. I haven't had it easy. It doesn't mean because my dad, had an established name and he was established in the sport, that I had it easy. I've been knocked off the track on numerous occasions on a straight because, you know, I was overtaking a guy, and to the point where...
So there is still that?
Yeah, so the last few years I've gotten better, but it's also because I learned to hold my own, and that's where my dad forced me. There was one incident where I was just knocked off the track on a straight for no reason by someone, and it wasn't the first time he had done it. And my dad said to me, if you want to do this, start learning to stand up for yourself. And I got out of my car with my helmet on, and I remember marching down the pit lane, and I gave him a piece of my mind. And unfortunately, you have to have a hard sort of personality to a point. Like, you can't just be a feminine woman all the time, because you have to learn to stand your ground. And I think at this point in my career, after 31, you know, I'm 31 now, like, yeah. I've learned and I've established my own name and I've established my own ability. So it's definitely helped, but it hasn't been an easy road. I've definitely had my fair share of discrimination.
Do you feel that it's that masculine environment that puts women off of us having more women in motorsport at the highest level and competing like you do in the Legends Championship? Or do you think it's just the risks of motorsport?
I think it's a combination of things. One, I think it's an environment that not a lot of women understand and know, so it might look or sound daunting. It's also not an easy environment or easy sport to get into, so I think that pushes a lot of women away, even if it's something they are interested in and they love. It's not an easily accessible sport that you can, you know, have the skill and go test for a team and get in. It's a very expensive, difficult sport. And I think it's very daunting. You live in a man's world, and, you know, in most people's eyes, it's getting better and better as time goes on. But in most people's eyes, we live in a man's world. You know, I also work in the automotive industry, and it still has the connotation that you live in a man's world. And you often, like, if you speak to men at a car show, there's still men out there who will refuse to speak to you as a woman about a car. They would only speak to a man. So there are still those issues out there, unfortunately. They're getting better, but it's not gone, nowhere near gone.
Paige Lindenberg, thank you so much for your time. I wish we had a little bit more time to have a chat, but that's how we come to the end of your Focus In on Sport. Paige Lindenberg, a champion motor driver herself, and nominee and finalist in the Women in Motoring Awards category for 2023.